listening tonight. I got a feeling that the cards just ain't right. I'm so salty, must not give in to rage. And I'm wondering what those rollers will say. Scarves to the left of me, the cheaters to the right. Here I am, gonna roll a derby tonight. Gonna roll a derby tonight. Gonna roll a derby tonight.
Oh yeah, that's my wife, but we are the Hidden Center Roller Derby, and this is your Australian L5R podcast. I'm Woohoo! I'm your host Simkoff, and I'm here with an exciting pack of roller derby participants. Our blocker Toridori, how you going?
Hi man, how are you?
Fantastic. Jammer Sir Budson.
Really uncomfortable with all this enthusiasm.
And I don't know any other roles. Let's just say like equipment manager Glenn.
Yo, what's up?
Great. That will be the last we ever talk about actual roller derbies on this podcast. Back to cards at hand.
Oh, I just realized that's what you were doing. I'm so out of the loop on that stuff.
Hey, you named this podcast, man.
That's true.
Yeah. So, what an amazing week in cards. And we're drawing close to the Christmas season, so we're all pretty excited to get the hell out of work and spend some time playing L5R, and maybe time with the family if you really have to. Highlights, man. Madrid Cote, I guess that's the biggest thing that happened in the last week, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. There's a little bit of noise about it with the old second place line Hatamoto.
Yeah, so maybe let's just get the hype, the hardcore hype about Lions back out the way now, because we do have a restricted list to talk about. So, Bert, I know you've been...
Fuck you, Ben. Fuck you.
You've just been itching to talk about this, man. Can you say why... I know you've been a little frustrated with the clan for a while, but what contributed to the amazing success? Like, second out of, like, the hundreds of people that competed in the competitive Euro Cote.
I think clearly I'm just not a very good player, because I haven't been able to win one game, let alone 6 in a row, like Shadowblade did. That's an absolutely amazing performance to go undefeated in Swiss, and then to back it up with a finals finish is fucking incredible. Before you Lion guys get all excited, I'll just say he had one attachment hate card in his deck and didn't play a single dragon or crab player. So maybe temper your expectations a little bit about the result.
Well, no,
it was a cool deck.
He played a dragon player.
Did he play a dragon?
Oh, actually, no, he didn't at all. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So, I mean, fucking hell, man, that guy's a gun. I mean, he was also runner-up last year in Madrid, so back-to-back bridesmaid finishes is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, because those Codes are really, really big, right? They're like hundreds of people, 2 day ones, day 1A, day 1B.
Both of them, both this year's and last year's, were larger than Worlds in terms of attendance. So very, very impressive.
Yeah, I'm super jealous of that sort of population for games over there.
I think overall the numbers were lower though, because I think there's only 260 for this year, and last year there was over 400.
Yeah, that's right.
I would take 260, right?
Oh, 100%. It's still a huge tournament, and like that's what makes that line win even, more awesome to kind of fight through, that quality of player pool.
Mate, I'd be stoked for 60.
Isn't it crazy that we're talking about? I mean, we're talking about this amazing event that's just finished with all these great players, and all we're talking about is the second place finisher, despite the guy who won having won his 4th Kotai now.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But I guess that, I mean, look, I guess you could infer from that the state of Lion in the game. But yeah.
Sort of like, it's also sort of like when The Rock is in a movie every year, you kind of just expect it to go that way. You're like, Jakob, not to take away from it, but you're like, yeah, cool. He's got his 4th medal on his chain. He'll soon be, got more chains than, what was that guy from the A-team?
Mr. T.
Oh, Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Baracus.
Let's carry that. So congrats to Jakob there. But my highlight from the line was definitely Homer Ekahara, who you're not a fan of the cut of that Lion deck.
The signature card, Ikehara.
You're talking about Ikehara. Yeah, I find that card pretty much a total toilet. Even when it was released, I kind of I called it a toilet, and I stand by that. I think it's still a toilet and doesn't belong in any lion list ever, pretty much.
No, it's covert cards and honor. How can you go wrong, mate?
So, does that mean, Bert, that we're hearing here on stream, you think that card's a toilet? So if someone wins a Kote with that card in their deck, you're going to drink a pint of toilet water and record it and upload it to YouTube video? Is that what
I mean, normally I like to come up with these outrageous things that I promise, but that is a great idea, Simcoff. You know what? I will. Hear me now, listeners. If you win a Kotai with 3 copies of Ikehata in your deck...
3 copies, right? So you're, like, properly going for the Ikehata angle. It's not just...
Yes, I will drink a pint of toilet water, and I'm talking imperial-sized pint, the big fucker. My choice of toilet. It can't be like a public dunny in St Kilda, right?
Yeah, nobody's going to ask you to do that. All right, another outrageous bet.
There you go.
Have you fulfilled your other requirements so far for your lion bets, Bert?
You know what? I haven't, and no one's really taken me to task over that, to be honest. People kind of murmur about it. They make passive aggressive stabs.
Are you saying that on air, you're saying that you're comfortable with being a Welcher?
I'm just taking a while to fulfill my end of the bargain, right? You guys got to be more careful with these contracts.
This sounds like the Dur challenge, man. One day we'll finish.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
That's a deep cut for our listeners out there. Right, so Jacob, what a legend. 4 Kotes. Can anything bring him down? Can the restricted list, if you take away bees, like if he's no longer the apiarist that he's famous for being, can he win more Kotes?
Well, I would do better. I got 4 fate you can use for people.
Someone's fucking salty. I got a chance to play him in the Proving Grounds in round 6 of the Proving Grounds at Worlds, and I was like exhausted. It'd been a long week. We've been drinking booze, and I just got busted out of the main event, same round as him, and. I was like knackered, right? I was making mistakes, and he was playing as if he just had 15 coffees and just woke up after a winter hibernation. Like he was a Terminator, man. That guy's a fearsome opponent. So I'm sure he'll do fine, even post-RL.
Yeah.
I don't get people who can do that. Like honestly, I do a tournament over here, and I do maybe 2 rounds, and I start feeling it. Like I get cooked pretty quick.
Yeah. Once I hit my 5th bourbon, my play style definitely goes rapidly downhill.
Yeah, but not everyone's a lightweight. Like, most people can play.
Touche.
Ben, I've noticed lately in our game nights that Ben has a bourbon to scoop ratio of like 3 to 1.
And I think the more that I drink, the more the crazy decks start coming out. Like
he played my Scorpion, and I just played a similar deck to his, and he's like, "Oh, you can do all these things, and I can't really interact with it. I'm just gonna scoop now."
I think you'll find it's probably like a drinking game where if you see a one-of card, it's drink and scoop. So then you got to keep cycling. Or maybe is it Guest of Honor?
We have a rule that if you flop Hidden Moon Dojo, your opponent's allowed to scoop, and it's actually encouraged. Turn 1.
I think that's for the week.
Wait, is it Hidden Moon Dojo or Hidden Moon Dojo?
In fact, we put it out there now in casuals, right? I find that so distasteful and so weak. If you're playing Scorpion at a social against me, a non-tournament game, I insist that you start with Hidden Moon Dojo. Just get it out the table, right?
I'm just getting excited for when the dojo keyword becomes like the focus, like Void Fist. You know, there's a card for Void Fist and Monk synergy. I just want a dojo card that has that power level.
I guess there has to be a dojo-related card coming out in Children of the Emperor. Let's talk about, there was a new rules reference guide, and yes, there was a restricted list that's had some sort of impact on the game, mostly just sending Scorpion to the absolute toilet, but besides that, there were some minor weird updates to the rules. So first of all, Hidden Moon Dojo got errated, complete card rewrite. It no longer has the dojo trait, it has the dojo trait.
What was the point of this? I mean, honestly, what was the point of this?
You know what it's for? It's for people who are like, ooh, this card that says get +X force for every dojo, you know, that's a dojo card, not a dojo card. So, like, you know, they're all about. It wasn't an umlaut. It was some weird little accent. I don't know exactly what that accent was called.
I assumed immediately for cultural sensitivity or something, and they had to like, oh shit, better change that because of that one little crazy person.
Yeah, some privileged white American in some basement sent an angry email to Nate French.
That's most of the get carried away.
I feel like Nathan at Perth now you must have a chance going still. Is that the case over in Perth? You've got the bonsais and the bees.
Yeah, no, they're staples, mate. Every time.
But that aside, there was a couple of other weird little rules references, guide updates, which I want to put out there for everyone. One really important rules update that has a massive effect on the meta as it stands is there is rules if in a duel there's more than one character participating on the same side.
Yeah, they kind of count as one. It's like a beautiful union, almost like a wedding, really.
It really extends the definition of duel. I feel like 1-on-3 or 1-on-4 is no longer really a duel.
Are we now talking about conflicts?
We're talking about duels.
No, yeah, but like it's 1v3. Are we into the conflict?
Yeah.
The situation.
Yeah, it feels like you've started a duel and you're like, no, it's actually a conflict. I don't know. I'm a bit dubious about that.
That's a bit reminiscent of the old 5R ambush card, where you just go away and you have your own separate conflict, which is basically the 1v3 duel, and then you resolve that, then come back to the current one.
Dude, I loved that card. You lost a bunch of honor to do it, right? And then you just beat some guy up in an alleyway. God, that was so much fun.
Yeah. You just jump him, you just bum rush him in an alley and smash him. But
that was such a great card.
Multiples gang up on one guy for a duel has to be a Scorpion card. Like, no question. Has to be.
It feels... The problem is, right, it feels Scorpion thematically like the idea of just some dodgy shinobi just like beating the crap out of somebody in an alleyway and being like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do it. Like, you know, Unicorn have got the multi-personality thing, but Lion are probably the clan that need it the most.
I would just love if it was like a reaction to your opponent choosing targets for a duel. And it's just like, surprise, motherfucker, I got 3 guys here. That would be sick.
I think also it'd be awesome. It's really unfortunate that you can't tie it in thematically with back-handed alley anymore. So you couldn't have like the guy jump out of the back-handed alley and then ambush him. Because you can't use that card anymore in the conflict phase.
So hold on.
Are
we saying the card should actually be called surprise, motherfucker, and have a picture of Samuel L. Jackson in like Scorpion armor?
Yes.
I would play that.
I'm sure he's a big anime fan. He'd fucking love it.
Well, it worked for Marvel, right? When they eventually do L5R the movie, Samuel L. Jackson can play some
Kodo Tetsuri.
Why not?
He'd be sick of these motherfucking mantis on these motherfucking boats.
Someone get these niños off this motherfucking boat. All right, we've totally reached the explicit label this episode, I'm pretty sure.
The last episode of Jade Throne's going to give us a run, mate. They were pretty slinging some F-bombs around.
If you want a far more detailed, strategic, intelligent, rational discussion on the restricted list, you can listen to Jade Throne, but we'll give you the funnies. Well, at least the salties. So let's start the Salt Fest. I'm going to start the Salt Fest and talk about Scorpion. We are at heart, we've been known as the B clan for quite some time now, and I feel like they're really screwing with our clan identity. We're the B clan, right? But now we can't play Bs, right? Like it's really hard, right? Like we're not going to be tier 1 for a second. And
so before you were the B clan because you played Bs, now you're the B clan because you're no longer an A clan. You dropped the rank.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
But yeah. Oh fuck. Lo-fi podcast.
Is lo-fi.
a quick look behind the veil for our listeners about our level of technology.
That almost felt like that conversation just went, nah, fuck it, we're wrapping this up.
Scorpion's been relegated to low.
We are earning our fucking name.
Before we talk about this restricted list,
Yeah.
let's just preface this with a little disclaimer. This list was likely, I'm hoping, designed with all the new cards in mind as well, right?
yeah,
so
for sure.
with that in mind, we're gonna do our best to tear the shreds out of it.
So
With
I'm
our
going to do
current
another precursor. I'm just going to like edge the hell about our restricted list critique here. There are, if you have a look at how many sets are coming out next year, we've got Children of the Empire, which is a Uber Deluxe set. We've got like 5 clan packs coming out. We've got an Arc, which has moved back to monthly release cycle, which I think is amazing.
Very good.
So you have so many cards, right? So I think, and based on the previews we've seen, which we're talking about a little bit, I think the health of the game, I think it's just amazing and fantastic, and I'm really, really excited to be continuing. But we do have a restricted list to talk about. All right, let's start with Lion. All right, Bert, give it to us.
So big updates with Lion. On the restricted list, no change. So basically, we're winners because we didn't get fucked even further. So yeah, that's pretty good.
You guys actually won a card, and you can play against the Waves.
Yeah, you can play against the Waves, man.
Don't fucking insult me, Glenn. Glenjamin.
I'm not insulting you. If there is now an additional card in the card pool, by definition, your clan has an upper hand.
You can Spirit Caller
I just
something,
do not
and then untap. You can ready your Spirit Caller after he's brought back, like, Tatsuri. That's rigged.
Oh yeah, so you pay 1 fate to get another 1 military skill.
No, you can.
Oh, no, I can see where we're going wrong here, but because there's actually a second, you don't have to do military every conflict. There's actually an entire second half to do political conflicts, and there's a whole second that's stat in the upper right.
That's the first.
That's what that number is.
Are you sure?
I'm like 98%, like, but I'm pretty sure it's possible.
I think Lion doesn't believe in political. Oh, except for the Lion that was actually successful. So the Lion that was actually successful embraced politics.
Ikehata, naturally.
My line of play was going to be the you use a mere mystic in a conflict, and then you unbow it, and you use it in another conflict, and then you remove the attachment. Just incrementing that value.
That is a massive value play. So you're getting.
So rather than just playing the green card that costs 0 from your conflict deck, you're going to spend the fate, buy the 2-drop character, and then get quote unquote value. Yeah.
You can bow Yakuni with it when he hits the table. You can bow Tadaka, get rid of him.
Yeah,
look, I think
it's an aggressive card. Like you can bow. It's like another bow effect. Is what I was thinking of it.
I think that there's really just no point in talking about Lion. It's kind of like Unicorn last year. Until we get like.
Are you like that down in the dumps online?
I just think it's not worth.
Bro.
I think it's not worth analysis. It's beneath analysis because.
You guys remember last year when Unicorn were that bad, and then they came second in a massive tournament. That was huge for Unicorn back then, right? Or did that not happen? Is that just Lion?
Okay, but last year there were hardly any talented players playing Unicorn because they realized that the clan was
is
shit.
just like that is shade thrown. That is shots fired. That is going straight to the
to the 0
people
heart. To the 0 people that I've insulted because it's true that there were hardly any. I apologize.
In absolute truth and fairness, though, there is something Lion have now that they didn't have before, and now that's hope.
They do.
Since they haven't had a moto.
Found hope.
Look, I don't know. Do you guys want to ruin my mood and make me go into assault rant for like 10 minutes? Because I could do it, and I'm trying to just abstain, you know?
All right.
All I'm saying is, hang on, is that Bert can say all he likes, but there's hard data on the other side that says Lion don't suck. It's science.
Fuck! Butters, you evil man. You just keep poking the bear, and one day he's going to wake up and get mad.
All right. Well,
produce your stats, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I guess there is a stat.
You're right. Lion of the second best clan. You're right.
Yeah, cool. All right. There would be a stat which is in the top, say, 32. How many other Lions were there?
When? Where?
At Madrid. Pretty
0.
sure.
Only Shadowblade.
And how many Scorpions are in the top 32?
I think it was half.
Was it
Half
more
the
than
field.
one?
Yeah.
I think it was half the field.
Yeah. So, and Crane. So, like, I get it. There was this one player that was an anomaly. But anyway, let's move on to Crab. Glenn, you Crab darling, you. How did you feel they fared with the changes? So, what were the changes first, and what did you think Crab fared?
You mean that about Crab?
Yeah, just talk about. I guess they Rebuild got on the restricted list, and Iron Man left it.
I mean, in some extent, the deck didn't really change itself.
Yeah, Glenn, you've metallicized. We might throw. Yeah, okay, he's gone. He's just left the Discord chat.
Let's skip Crab.
He's reporting from the Outback. So, Butters, who's in Western Australia, which is further away from us than the Outback.
It's actually through the Outback and emerges from the other side and becomes civilization again.
Civilization Light, I think you mean.
So I am heartbroken about the fate of Scorpion, and I'm sure that there are many L5R fans out there that are shedding tears with me because, you know, what is the game without Scorpion? It is Scorpion 5R, but maybe not anymore. What are your thoughts on us losing bees and having a really hard nerf on back end, basically a soft ban on back end alleyway?
I'm just saying that Scorpion, way back when, said that they would be the villain, and they've just been shot down and they can't do what they're meant to do anymore. No bees, no rumors, no young people.
I guess my concern with a Fate Worse Than Death going on the restricted list is it incentivizes more people to play Maze of Illusion.
It does, yeah. It does. In a way, it does. If you want a like-for-like effect, you kind of need to.
Yeah, because I guess in testing so far, I've tried Maze of Illusion and Ambush as the two replacement cards. Just trying to get some sort of similar control effect. That might be incorrect, and I think Nathan might be onto something where maybe you can play one more additional Dynasty character and play a bit more fair.
What phase is that? Sorry?
It's the phase that matters for 6 out of 7 clans.
I'm not familiar.
It's what political is to Lion, is that Dynasty phase.
Right.
It actually goes before the draw phase, believe it or not. There's actually a whole part of the game there.
No, lies.
It's actually
the game phase Fate. That's the Fate where you gain phase, right?
That's the bonus Fate phase, yeah.
Bonus Fate phase, yeah. Okay.
You're going to love the new Unicorn box, Ben, because then you can gain even more Fate.
Oh.
It was just...
Let's put a pin in that, but I'm very, very, very excited about playing Unicorn and having all of the Fate.
So, Ben, I think you said something quite interesting, and I completely agree with it in our conversations off air, that this Fate Worse Than Death was basically the linchpin behind the identity and the mode that Scorpion has been playing for the last, 6 months or a year. And so you Scorpion players, myself included, are going to have to rethink how the clan operates. It's going to be a total change, which is pretty interesting. I mean, I think it's exciting, actually. I'm not that down on it, but I'm not a Scorpion diehard, so...
I am a Scorpion diehard, and what I would say is that even though, obviously, like, it was quite a hit, I think in general, is it does mean we've got lots of cards coming out with True and the Emperor. Pardon me. We do have the fun opportunity of trying to solve the puzzle. I don't know if our puzzle will be as hard to solve as the Unicorn puzzle of old. I think ours does have an answer, which is not printing a shitload of new cards, but I think we can do stuff with what we already have. But there's a fundamental shift in the way that we'll actually play the game. Because I guess at the end of the day, like the investment banking strategy of Scorpion, one of the crutch cards that we had to dump that Fate and really, just having that amount of Fate meant that if you're on the other side of the table, you've got to play as if the opponent has at least one Fate Worse Than Death in their hand. And that really puts a lot of pressure on the other opponent, whether or not you've got it in your hand or not. So you can kind of do nothing, but by doing nothing, you're actually putting a heap of pressure on the opponent, which is brutal. But now we've got to figure out different ways of doing it. I've gone down the path, again, like I think the rest of you, of trying to substitute cards. I've tried Cunning Magistrate, substituting Fate Worse Than Death for Cunning Magistrates and going back to that sort of dishonor everybody and control it up, but it didn't quite feel the same, right? So I think that we do really need to rethink, reset, and take a moment to kind of think about how we tackle things. My gut feeling is that we're going to go to like little dudes and go super wide and just be really effective at poking and actually play the game and have lots and lots of conflicts that we lose, but we're losing to win, like Martel style and Agot. That's my thoughts, but it's not solved yet. As Neil said on the J Thrones podcast, I've tried lots of things against him, and I mean, he's a better player than me, but still, I haven't found an effective strategy to chip away and even approach victory yet in any comprehensive manner.
Do you think part of the process will be that you kind of need to take a further step back and rethink the entire deck?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also the issue with the Fate Worse Than Death was that a lot of other clans were using it as a key element to their control deck archetype. And so that may be where those decks sort of get hit a bit more. So you can't run, I was running Phoenix Dishonor with Forged Edicts and Fate Worse Than Death. And so losing that Fate Worse Than Death is actually kind of a huge impact on how that deck operates, as it loses a key control element.
I think Crane could be pretty scary when they could, when they were Scorp splashing and they had a copy of Fate Worse Than Death, Seeker of Air. That was pretty terrifying too. So yeah, I think you're right. In general, I guess it's improved a lot of Crab and Dragon. I mean, Dragon were already doing all right, but Crab in general, I think, by the fact that Fate Worse Than Death is gone, I feel like Crab have like at least a small boost in their stakes. That combined with Fight On.
Yeah.
With Fate Worse Than Death, I mean, if Fate Worse Than Death at the level of the game you're playing, where you win a fair bit, you've done okay. Like, if that one card is defining the average Scorpion deck to that degree, is that not a fairly strong indicator that was probably not a great card to have unrestricted?
I'm not at all like angry that it's being put on the restricted list. I think it's a fair card. Like, it was a strong card. I mean, look, we pay 4 more Fate for the effect than Dragon does, but that's okay because that's the way that Dragon is. They just have everything for free, and everyone else has to pay for stuff. But like, it's a strong thing. So let's have a think about Dragon, I guess. Like, how did Dragon fare out of this new
We've only done half of this restricted list on Scorpion. So if we're talking about reasons to get angry, can I just ask, let's take a little consensus from that. Well, there's only 2 others other than me now. How many times have you played a game and the person opposite you, when you're playing Scorpion, has told you how broken and frustrating young Rumomonger is to play against?
I actually think it can be. Like, I think it was a problematic card, mainly due to how costs were paid for certain cards, and just the disruption you could offer for dishonoring and honoring effects.
I think
that sounds a bit like it could have. But no one complained about that card, man. Younger Rumomonger was just neat. It was fine. No one went, "Oh, I lost that game because of Young Rumomonger."
Sure, but have you like abused, like, maybe there's a deck out there that's abusing Game of Sadane, and then like, you're like bully dueling and then moving 3 dishonor tokens over or something through like your 3 Rumormongers. I don't know. I just think like maybe there's a whole heap of cards that honor or dishonor now, that it's just his ability causes too much disruption to what would be considered a fair game.
I play it like it's in almost every deck you play against, just like the Liar and everything else, but they were never they were rarely an assassination target, let alone anything else. Like, they just didn't get dumped. They were never considered a high threat. It's always sort of after the fact you play your edict and flick it somewhere else or whatever. But I don't know, I feel like it's completely unnecessary. I'm not a fan ever of like just bloat for rule's sake. And there's a few cards on there that were just sort of unnecessary. Like, I don't feel like Knitting Master was really that big of a cry scene either. But,
I get the Knitting Master thing. I think the Knitting Master was more because, especially that was more, I guess, for newer players to the game, right? Like, there are some games where if you've got like a decent player and an average player, if the average player flops a Knitting Master on turn 1 and just Pathfinder's Blades their way to taking 2 provs turn 1 and 2 provs turn 2, right? Like, it's sometimes you just get completely blown out, and it's just like, oh, you drew the cards, I didn't draw the cards, guess you win the game. So I get that. It's like kind of like Guest of Honor and Tadaka. Guest of Honor and Tadaka, whilst I have always complained of those cards, and if you listen to a previous Hidden City Rolls, you hear me talk about my Fun 5R concept. I think that neither of those cards were necessarily horrific. I think they were very strong and game warping. But I think, like, as competitive players, as competitive players, you find a way to play around them. However, like, Guest of Honor for people trying to enter the game, Tadaka for people trying to enter the game, and Knit and Master, they're those sort of cards that go, it's like those gateways. It's like you'll lose new players because those cards exist. That's my thought.
I think it's more that they're heading towards the direction trying to add, as Anil likes to reference it, like having taxes on abilities so that your opponent can still play the game but at a cost. I think that is a much more reasonable way to go about it, other than a blanket playing card denial effect. Like, I think Bayoshi Whisperer is like a very fair way of doing card denial because it costs so much.
It does.
Do you think Whisperer is, if you can't play cards like Tadaka and Guest of Honor and everything quite as easily because they're now restricted, like, does that increase the value of the old Scorpion 6-coster?
I mean, I put one in my deck, played it, and it was incredibly disruptive to my opponent that I triggered it twice over 2 turns.
How much of that value is the hand scouting as opposed to the denial?
The hand scouting lets you play. Playing perfect turns in L5R is probably one of the most frustrating things for an opponent. Like, if you ask me why I still think policy bait was an issue, is because they get to see your hand.
Yeah.
I didn't really care that they removed a card. That was frustrating, but like doable. It was that they could then play a perfect turn. I just don't want to play card games where that's the case.
Yeah, it's fun. L5R and a lot of other LCGs are fun because they're games of imperfect information.
The tension in a conflict is lost, because then anytime you can scout the hand, every time they're playing a card, it's because there's no point you playing a card in response because you know they've already mathed it out, right?
But I think I totally agree. However, I think that like the amount of fate, like maybe that's the answer. Look, I will say that with Bayoshi Whisperers, that every time I look at constructing a deck, it almost never, ever makes it into the deck. I look at that thing and I'm like, oh, it's so expensive. Like, just so expensive, right? And I've got to pay for my Fate Worsened Deaths. You
don't have to anymore. That's the best part.
But I do know also, conversely, whenever I've ambushed that sucker out in KB and been able to use it twice a turn for its big stats and, you know, also use its ability or charge it out, or when I've actually paid for it. So whenever I put it in deck and actually played for it, it's felt so good, but it feels so bad putting it in your deck. So it is one of those things that, like, it feels so inefficient when you're constructing the decks.
I think that card is unplayable if you're paying for it. It's just not strong enough. And then if you aren't paying for it, what's that?
One Fate, charging it in and then using KB to unbow it.
Yeah, I mean, in that deck it's okay, but in the same sentence, I'd still prefer to charge in an Aramora or a Shoju
but I guess the point was more about, I think, fairer ways to scout the hand or do card denial. I think that the Whisper is better designed card than Tadaka was. Or,
were you guys just talking about, because I disconnected? Were you guys just talking about
Guest and Tadaka? Yeah.
I think these cards aren't so much necessarily for balance.
Yeah.
The reasons that they're on there are for gameplay. They make bad gameplay.
Yeah, that's what we were talking through. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. You know, as a grumpy man who, when he plays cards, wants to be able to play cards, like, I love seeing the back of Guest of Honor, or at least at the moment, like, I think most Crane will still play Guest of Honor. We just won't see policy debate anymore. But obviously, in future, there's going to be some great cards that go on that restricted list, and Crane players will have to make difficult choices.
I think also those cards going on there means that playing, like, if you put really expensive events or really powerful events in your deck that are to help advance your game plan, I think it's only fair that you have an opportunity in the majority of your games to at least play them from hand. And the only thing you really have to play around is either a cancel or a tax, as opposed to just they flipped better than you and then lock you out of your game plan.
Yeah. So, we haven't spoken about two clans, so we haven't yet spoken about the Phoenix. So, Bert, did you maybe want to tackle how you felt the Phoenix fared with this restricted list, getting Against the Waves back?
I actually think that this was my favourite change of the whole restricted list, adding Tadaka and removing Against the Waves. So a couple of things this does. First of all, it doesn't change the current KI tempo deck that Phoenix players have been playing and enjoying. You still get to play Tadaka and Against the Waves, or it actually gives those players the option to ditch Tadaka and choose Charge, and play Charge with Against the Waves and charge out big Shigenja like Kaede, which I think is cool. So there's going to be maybe a divergence in decks a little bit. So from a Phoenix side, it's cool because you still get to play what you love, but you also get to maybe play a slightly different build. It does kind of hose the Isalmora Saito decks, because the whole restricted list does really, because it kills Scorpion Splash. So that's a little bit of a shame, but I'm happy about that. And then from the other side, it actually opens up Phoenix as a splash option. Now that Against the Waves is no longer restricted, it means that clans can more easily choose that clan as a splash clan, which is really cool.
But doesn't mean now, conversely, that Against the Waves is potentially going to see, well, will presumably see more play than it sees pre-restricted list. That it's going to be back to the point where we feel a little bit sheepish about bringing Shigenja, investing too heavily into Shigenja.
Yeah, I think players were already that way against Phoenix. Now you might just have to worry about that as a splash. But as a splash, it's a lot less threatening, because it's not 6 Against the Waves you have to worry about. It's only the 3 or 2 or whatever.
I think it's pretty good, because I think it just means that they, more or less Shigenja, but know that that card is something that every clan can now have access to as a Punisher.
I'm not looking forward to at all Dragon, getting that card splashed. Like Yakuni and their Alchemist and all that stuff is gonna... So many people are gonna start playing that as a splash with these Shug heavy decks. That's gonna make a really big difference.
Well, look, I guess that means they're not playing Reprieve, so they're knob-sackable. I'm pretty happy if Dragon is splashing Phoenix. I know Phoenix, Dragon have already got the best recursion in the game, and then you give them, better card draw with Shrine Maidens and,
recurring Shrine Maidens with Tagashi Mitsu is the most disgusting thing in L5R. It is so horrible.
You can...
And all it really will take is for them to get one extra layer of protection. Because right now they need both Against the Finger of Jade and Reprieve, and their Investigators. They're their 3 layers, right? They attack the hand with the Investigator, and they protect their towers. If they get one other neutral protection card, then they ditch Crab Splash and go for Phoenix. Or maybe they'll go for Phoenix anyway. It's pretty strong.
Yeah, it'd be more fun to see. I'm happy at the maybe for the first few games to at least see a different deck. If someone's splashing Phoenix, at least it's a different sort of game than the grindy outvalue plays.
Yeah. So I guess we've left the best for last. Unicorn. How do we see they fared vis-a-vis New RL?
They got nerfed pretty hard.
Rebuild, right?
Rebuild hit the restricted list, and so I can no longer play Turbo Yurt without because of Charge. And Rebuild are there, so I guess you got to drop Charge.
So you're saying that New RL provided a hard nerf to Turbo Yurt?
It just made it that little bit harder, which is unfortunate, because that deck I thought my fingers were crossed that with Child of the Plains in the clan pack that maybe that deck had some legs.
Good night, sweet prince.
But yeah, so
Oh my God.
really, like the Turbo Yurt was the real casualty here.
Yeah, I think otherwise, I think Unicorn came out pretty unscathed. There was no purple cards on the list as far as I remember.
Yeah. All right.
It is a big deal though, but I think on a slightly, actually, it's not a different topic. It's exactly the same topic. Rebuild though, I felt gave a lot of decks that maybe weren't top tier, but a lot of fun legs. Like you do all kinds of wacky stuff with Satoshi and rebuilds with I was running it in Phoenix to flip over libraries and mill decks and all kinds of crazy shit that you can't really do as well now without rebuild there. I think it's one of those really it's a very different card. There's not a lot of that kind of recursion in the game from a fun perspective. And it's a shame to see it go on there. Anything different like that you can use, I feel like there had to be a different option. I don't know what it is. I have no solution.
I think the issue was that it was just too good. And in Crab, being able to recur the really good holdings in the Crab, in the Crab decks, like Kuni Lab and Iron Mines, and even getting back Imperial Palace or oh gosh, I've forgotten the Crab holding that. What's the one that steals attachments?
Karada District?
Yeah, Karada District. Sorry, I haven't played Crab in forever. Karada, being able to recur that, so your opponent goes, invest a bunch of cards to break it, and then you can just recur it next turn, was quite a strong play. I think maybe eventually it can go off again, usually because they seem to be putting more and more effects that actually remove cards from the province row anyways. So trading a card for a card feels fair to me, but I don't know what's coming up. So maybe it does have to go and stay on the restricted list.
Sad.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's the restricted list. I'm sure we could talk about this all day.
Just one more thing though. I really think Reprieve should have gone on. I think to actually address the Dragon deck, you could have removed Pathfinders and put on Reprieve, and then you actually create a very difficult choice for the Dragon deck.
Yeah, Reprieve goes everywhere though. So many decks run Reprieve. It's one of the reasons I think, because it's only one influence, right? As well.
One influence.
It's so cheap.
One fate.
It just does so much.
Anyway, sorry, that was just one thought.
We haven't spoken about Void Fist. I don't think anyone argues that card needs to go on there. Am I right?
It can stay on there forever, as far as I'm concerned.
Maybe make it cost at least 2 fate, maybe 3 fate. Bring it back.
Make it no. I think even if you just made it cost a fate, that card is fine. There's all these cards that they seem to print that they think the cost that they've put on it are real costs, and then they put it on the restricted list because they realize there's not really a real cost. And I think Void Fist is one of those that is very evident for that.
Yeah, just terrible Dragon players on the playtest.
Well, the counter,
amazing Lion players.
The counter to it is that you play the new Dragon card that makes both players draw 4 cards, and then you spies at court them over the turns and try to reduce their bids to 1 in Lion. Do you know what I mean? There's all these jank you could do to make them so they can't have 2 cards in hand to play, and then Void Fist becomes irrelevant.
So let's talk about that fantastic new card. I really, really like what this could do for the game. I think it was a really, really left field design and fantastic. That trading on Sand Road, I believe that's what it's called.
Yep.
Which, for those of you listening that don't necessarily know what it does, is it's an interrupt to the beginning of the draw phase. Instead of people using dials and doing the usual draw phase stuff, both players draw 4 cards. They form a pool that's in a remove from game pool, and for the rest of the turn, either player can play cards from that pool. And then at the end of the turn, well, if the cards get played, they'll go into relevant players' discard pile. But if they don't get played, they stay removed from the game. So it kind of does a lot of stuff because it means there is no bid. So therefore, when you're playing that bid game, everyone's bidding 1 because it's that low sort of Dishonored thing. Then you don't have to worry about that. You can still draw cards even if you're on really low honor. But there's a lot of side effects and really, really deep. I think there's really a lot of deep thought to have about that. For example,
this card This card is fucking bonkers, man.
Like, if you play this against Dragon, right? Like, standard Dragon that plays heaps and heaps of attachments. And if you're the first player, right? So I think it's obviously best to play when you're first player, because you'll have initiative at all times. You'll be able to, like, play the card first. So being able to play their, like, Finger of Jade or their Reprieve onto your characters before they get a chance is, like, amazing. So it's an attachment control card. Is this the attachment control card that Lion needed, Bert? Is this a major buff for Lion? Holy God, have we found the key?
No, I don't think so. I think this is probably a control card. I love this card's design. When I first saw this, I was having flashbacks to Jurigen's Curse, because like that, it's a zero-cost card that like interacts with a phase or framework in such a powerful way. Now, Jurigen's hasn't ended up being super strong in practice, because stuff like Five Fires does its effect kind of a bit better. But this card here, skipping the draw phase is just fucking insane, first of all. And then the second part of the effect is really cool. I think the clan that can make this the most asymmetrical effect that it can possibly be the best is going to do the best with it. So if you play you say you're playing Scorpion and your Fate deck is super, super expensive, you play this on a turn against your Crab opponent who has one Fate, and they're not going to be able to play any of your cards, and you're going to be able to play a lot of their cheap or free stuff. So I think that's where this card's going to fucking shine. It's a really cool effect. I think a lot of clans will probably try it out. I'm excited to see where it goes, because who knows, man.
I'm personally super excited because it just gets us one bit closer to that Dishonor mill deck. You can start grinding through all the stuff. That's super exciting. Anytime you get a new archetype, starts to be more viable.
Hey, can you play two of these for the same draw phase? Or no? Because you cancel the triggering condition, right, with the interrupt.
Yeah, the phase is gone. Out of curiosity, but very quickly, do you think it's a busted card because it's ridiculous and crazy, or because it's overpowered?
I don't think it's busted. I think it's
really
cool.
Bonkers in the sense that it interacts with a key framework of the game in such an obscenely different way to what a zero-cost event should intuitively do. I don't know if in practice it'll actually end up being super powerful. I love the design. I think it's awesome. And
do you guys know? I think it's a stall card. I think it's like I think you can slow the game down incredibly.
Hostilities.
Yeah,
So,
because you start with 4, and there's 8 in the pool, and then you can just soak up all the cards in the first conflict. So then it's like just this really lame sort of number, like obvious number crunch with like only 3 surprises in hand or something. I think this card is, I think, very. You're gonna have to practice it a lot and build your deck very carefully to ensure that you actually get value out of playing this, because you're trading a card. So you go down 1 card to play this, right? And then if you're second player, they get the first opportunity to play a card from those 8.
Play it. I feel like in general, you try not to play it when you're second player. You want to play it when you're first player, so you've got first opportunity to take one of their attachments, right?
this is also an anti 5-1, 5-1, baby.
Oh, that's
card
true.
Because
if you've got
let it fuck off.
Well, if you've got like only 1 card in your hand or 2, and you play this at the beginning of the phase, and your opponent's got 8, what happens? You throw down 1 card, they throw 4, and then you make up a lot of that space for your old low bid decks, right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, I think it's a good late game card for aggro decks that need a little oomph if you're being pressured honor-wise, or there'll be a deck that uses it as a centerpiece, and I'm excited to see that. And I think apart from that, it's just a cool one-of. I think too. I think you actually want to see this in your deck. If you built the deck that way, I think you run it as 2, and then you can run. I think like Dragon, for instance, and Phoenix have some attachments that like require quite like. Isn't there like a Phoenix attachment that's like Phoenix Champion only? Like, that sort of level of costing. That sort of whatever. That sort of level of costing is what you want because. And same with like you want cards that fire during conflicts as well, because then they can't immediately steal the attachment. The most interesting thing you can do is you can play it, hit this Scorpion's duty, and then remove it from the game because they won't play it during that turn.
Wow. And so, I guess I guess there's an
Remove from
advantage
game's
as
important.
well. I'm just thinking about like effects that screw around with the order of cards as well. But I guess you're drawing 4, so if you can put a card at the bottom of your deck, you can avoid it being removed from the game. But super interesting card, and I think what I think is the best part about the design of this card is that all of us here have different ideas on how you think you can use it and why it's good and why it's bad. So it wasn't an obvious thing. Like, you know, when we saw Iron Mine, when we're spoiled, everyone's like, all right, I know exactly what that does. Like, there was no, you know, it wasn't ambiguous. We knew exactly what that card does. A card like this, none of us are like, we don't know how this is actually going to affect the game. We just know that it's going to be cool. It's going to be different.
You can play, like, you can play. It's just nuts. You can play their, like, can you play? You can't play. Can you play Feral Ningo? Like, if they have a Feral Ningo on their side, that's insane. Man. Does it shuffle into your deck or their deck? I don't know the rules well enough to know.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can't use the Ningo, right?
Why?
Because it says you may play the removed cards as if they're in your hand, and Ningos are put into play effect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
no.
I think
but
Ningos
when you
is
play that
dead.
card, it has an action which says put it into play.
No,
No.
You don't play
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
You put it into play, which
Well, that's
skirts
good.
the text.
See, that helps you. That helps me think about how to deck build more correctly because I
it's
think
not an
then-
action.
It's an action on a card that puts the card into play. It doesn't actually play the card. To play the card, you got to spend the fate cost.
Yeah.
So when you go to play a card, the first thing you do is check the cost.
All right, that's really confusing, and
That's really good.
I guess this will be one of those like poor JDL, like
Oh, that guy, Jesus Christ.
oh my god. I think there's going to be a lot of rules questions about this because I get what you're saying, Bert, but I'm not 100% convinced yet. I have to think about the logic of it.
Can we talk about the other spoiler that actually is probably the reason why Neaton Master is on the restricted list?
Show me that.
No, it's not.
You can run Seal of the
Curved
Unicorn. You can run Seal of the Unicorn and then play the Curved Blade, which is a 0-cost attachment, +1 military, +0 political. It's a weapon gaijin attached to Unicorn character, restricted, and while the character is attacking, it gets an additional +2 military.
It's pretty cool.
It's a 0-cost weapon.
I'm
Really
so
like it.
sad. I'm so fucking sad this isn't a Lion card. Like, they gave us this weapon sub-theme with the storehouse and then the
Did
time
Unicorn,
for war.
did
And we
Unicorn
just
win a Kotai? Did Unicorn make top 2 Kotai? Did Unicorn win Worlds?
Out of curiosity, how many Unicorn
trying to
Hadamotos
suggest-
are there at the moment?
Are you guys trying to suggest
The
that
new
Unicorn
season.
is worse than Lion right now? Is that what
No.
you're trying to suggest?
I'm saying this is a good card for Unicorn. It's nice.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
What did you say, Nathan?
Oh, I was just throwing salt on Bert, that's all.
Oh, just more unit.
Carry on.
he's,
Carry on.
he's just done. He's done with the lion shade. I think Unicorn getting these sort of cards for Unicorn is really good because it means you can spend your fate on these big, powerful effects like cavalry reserves, and effects like that.
You reckon you run it alongside katanas? Like, you don't replace it, you run it as well?
Yeah, I think you could almost push similar to Lion and just go full military focus.
Triple captive audience, obviously. And
Yeah, I think captive audience is what tips it over the edge.
so if you
with-
draw 2
when
of
compared
these in
to
your
Lion.
hand, you've got, in terms of free buffs, you could get 6 force off 2 of these suckers, and then you could potentially play a Bunzai. Like, the amount of the push is like almost Lion level of push.
It's
to
really
military.
cool too because unlike Lion, you don't get totally fucked by Guess and Tadaka because it's a pretty significant stat pump on a 0-cost attachment as
Attachment, yeah,
opposed
for
to
sure.
that, which is huge.
I just do want to comment that I think moving forward, I'd love to see all the weapons have that cost of like it needs to be that clan's character. So, for instance, I think Pathfinder's Blade should have been crab character.
Would be a very different card. Like, it's played exclusively, well, until this restricted lift, it's exclusively a dragon card. Like, it's a green
know.
card.
I know, but like as I'm saying, like it's just nice that it's like it's purple, but then it also
You think it
requires
was
you to be a unicorn character.
I was just thinking about design, right? And I think that card, when it was designed, like, it wasn't, like, it was designed as a dragon card, but they're like, you know, they knew that they wanted to push dragon down the crab splash, right? Like, it wasn't...
Maybe
they're
they were
like,
colorblind. Maybe that's
No,
just a
I think
simple answer.
I think they were actually saying, look, what's the package that we want Dragon to splash in general, like its top tier competitive package. And I think that's the way they designed it. Like they never ever thought when they designed Pathfinder Blade that it would be played by crap. I don't think that was. I don't think that was the case.
Man, I suspect that far less thought went into the design of that card. I think that card is fucking retarded.
I think, like I said, like this curve blade only has one influence, right? But the cost is so much that to then help it work as a splash card, you have to spend significant influence on the characters or the seals, for instance, right?
If they made it usable by any clan as well, Unicorn is already viewed as like a splash package.
Oh yeah,
because they've got so many great like low cost, low influence attachments and stuff. They're not like the cards that they get in the future conflict side are going to have to be very specific to them.
Yeah, well, we've seen that through the other spoilers with that in the political conflict boost for revealed provinces.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting card. Also, that is a different approach than court games for a political buff. That's an event.
Yeah, I think it's great. Super interesting.
Hey, did you guys have we wrapped up talking about the RL? Or are we still kind of?
You can always got time for you to talk about Lion.
Is there a late edition Lion card that you want to talk about?
Yeah, For Greater Glory just got errated to be legal again. No, I wanted to touch on something that I heard the illustrious investment banker Johnny Shen discuss on the Jade Throne, and he came up with this interesting distinction between balancing for the top level of competition and balancing for population.
Yep.
So I was wondering, like, given that I think this restricted list is a little bit of a mixed bag. Something like Young Rumomonga being on the list, I think might be like a population decision. That card wasn't dominating at the top end.
I actually, with Young Rumomonga, my gut tells me that it was not put on the RL for anything to do with the current meta. I think. Yeah,
that's what I think. I think so.
I think it was to do with the fact there's lots and lots of like honor-related things that will really screw with in Children of Empire, and it's probably would be an incredible card with Children of Empire.
Okay, let's say something like a Fate Worse Than Death. Now, at your casuals in your weekly casual games with your locals, that card is really hated and it's really strong in that format. When you're playing against players who play like once a week just to hang out, and you play that card on them, that is a horrible, horrible card to have to deal with and to have in your mind.
Close to game defining.
But at the top level, I didn't think that card was unfair. Like when you're watching Johnny Shen play it on Eric in the grand final at Worlds, I'm like, yeah, that's a good card, but it's not an unfair card. I thought it was a very good card, and it is a deck defining card. But I didn't think that. So I feel like some of these restricted list decisions were based on like population, like Tadaka and Guest. Incredibly strong game warping effects. Did they dominate at the top levels of play? I don't think they did. But are they horrible for the population and the flow of the game as a whole in casuals? Yes, I do think that.
I think Void Fist was a balance, an example of balance.
Agreed. Void Fist, super, super strong in top level play and probably really strong in mid level play as well. He had this interesting case of StarCraft where they balanced the game around like the global community. But then in Korea, one of the races became like ascendantly good, but they kept it that way because they wanted to, for North American tournaments, they wanted that race to be playable or whatever. So I found that quite interesting. And the same sort of thing happens in Dota 2 and MOBAs. And these are huge companies that have like lots of staff working on balance. And they have the advantage over card games of being able to like put out incremental patches and stuff, which is impossible in a card game. So, but it is interesting to look at because in Dota 2, there are some heroes that at a certain level of MMR, matchmaking rating, are like super, super good and they have really high win rates. Then as you get to the top, the win rate goes down significantly and vice versa. There are some heroes that are super strong in the pro level and then in pub games, they're weaker. And so I think it would be cool in a card game if we could make incremental changes to the cards themselves such that, you could tone down Void Fist for the top level play, but maybe leave it as it is for the mid level play and so forth. I just don't think that's possible, sadly. And so
I think it could be. Like, I think they just don't want to go the route of increasing influence.
Yeah, like, I hope they don't either. It's too inelegant. Like, errata just bogs down card games coming from other games where there's just too much. But what I do think they should be doing is actively changing the restricted list often. because then you just, if something does get too good for a little while, you know it's only temporary. And so I would like to see more updates. Personally.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I think that the first year they were really finding their groove, and the card pool was obviously, by its nature, it's a new game, so it's small, but as it shallow. But as it gets deeper, and as obviously we've got so many cards coming out next year, I would not be shocked at all if we see a quarterly update. I wouldn't want it any more than a month. Like, I think a monthly update is as fast as I want it, because every time you get a new restricted list, it does define a new meta, right? And I think once a month is
that's too much.
Fast. Yeah. That's absolutely the most. I think and I think maybe this is what Mr. Shen said, but I think like quarterlies feels good. But I mean, it's more about like they did really good. It was interesting if you think about way FFG have run this game, that during that sort of mid-year period last year, where there was a lull in communication, I think, and there were periods of like lots of communication, then nothing. But I feel like what has been great over the last bunch of months is that we know that every Thursday or Wednesday, if you're in a different part of the world, the other side of the world, we get some form of communication, which is like, hey, here's a preview, hey, here's a restricted list, here's a thing, here's something. But we know that there's some form of news coming once a week, and knowing that news is coming means that we're not going, oh man, feels like they're not talking about it.
There's always anticipation building. There's always something new on the horizon. I think given that Tyler and his team are going to be quite small, like compared to like a Valve or a Blizzard, these companies that are balancing these games, they don't have the resources. They have unpaid playtesters, and they have a small team. And given all these things, I think he's doing an absolutely amazing job since taking the reins. Like, I'm super happy.
And just as and Brad as well. But just as a note, like, I know sometimes we give the playtesters like a little bit of stick because we say, because we take out our frustrations on how the meta is shaped, and then we take it out on the playtesters saying that Clan X is really, really weak, therefore they must have had the best playtesters, and Clan Y is really, really strong. Obviously they had the worst play. It's just like when you're playtesting, you've got like your little play group. There's like 4 or 5 people that you're allowed to talk to these cards about, right? So you're really testing in such a microcosm. And the second these cards get in the wild, like you looked at every time a new set gets released to Jigaku, right? Within the first, week, there is all these wacky decks that no matter how much playtesting you do, if you're doing it in these little group formats, you just never would see, right? Like anyone who thinks that they can playtest a new set for a month in a play group, of 4 or 5 people, and figure out all the kinks, you're just wrong. I'm just going to put it out there. So, I mean, I think
I agree.
Yeah, we should be thankful to the people who actually put the time and the effort into, who are on. I don't know anyone on the playtest groups, but like those who are on the playtest groups, I think they do a good job in terms of like effort.
Yeah, and it's perfectly evident in stuff like, say, a Dota 2 patch gets released, and within 5 hours, there has to be a hotfix because some unforeseen combo or some unforeseen bug has come
like
out of their balance
with a big playtest team, right?
Huge playtest team of paid playtesters, and they do months and months and months of iterating on this stuff, on these balance patches. So I think, given the limitations that we're all having to deal with in a card game with a small community and a small, team of people working on the design of the game, they've done a great job. And I think, like, whether or not Tadaka should have been on there or Guest should have been on there for balance purposes, I'm neither here or there. I don't really care, but I'm very glad that they're both there for the experience of playing L5R, because those cards are shit. And you can still play them and annoy all your friends, but you just have to pay a little cost, and that's it. So I'm happy with it.
I think it was a great RL. Like, as a Scorpion player, I felt like I got the absolute beat stick, but, at some point, Scorpion need to not be like the absolute best clan for so long. Well, I mean, they're a very, very competitive clan since the game began. Like, you can argue whether they were number one, but like they've been. I think nobody can say they were weak.
Yeah, once you get over the whole the loss and grief of losing your top title stature, it's actually exciting because it's going to create a lot of innovation and experimentation. And like, to be honest, over the last 4 or 5 months, the Scorpion decks have all been really similar. Like, there are certain cards. if you try and make a deck without Forged Edict, everyone just calls you a fucking moron, right? And I think now it's like, oh, maybe you can play a deck without Forged Edict. You play Fate Worse and Deathly, you play Charge or whatever. There's new decks. There's new decks. Whether or not they become competitive is irrelevant. It's about exploring those themes. And so stuff like Restricted List is great for that. It reinvigorates me when I see these things come out. I'm like, oh, I wonder how Crane would do without Guest, and if you play X instead or whatever. I think it's really cool.
So, before we wrap up, this is an oversized episode. Couple of plugs is, first of all, the Discord League, the global one, that is. It's been... we had a bit of a break. There's currently the flashback season going on. They're still in the group stage of the flashback season, which is the version of L5R that you play, which is similar rules to core. Like, it's a much contracted card set. That's still in its sort of group stage, but then in January it'll kick into the cup, so that's something exciting to look out for. But also is Season 12. Sign-ups are available now, and that's going to be a regular, no funky, crazy variants, nothing. It's just like regular L5R, and its sign-ups are on now. They close December 30th, so that means in January, in the new year, a new season will kick off, and I've got it on good authority that as soon as Children of the Empire is legally implemented on Jigoku, it'll be legal for the league. So I think
great news.
Yeah, so I think that the Season 12 is going to be an extremely exciting season for the Global Discord League, because we're going to see a lot of new decks, especially the Season 12 Cup. So we might get, the group stage might have a period of old and a period of new, but the Season 12 Cup will for sure have Children of the Empire. So we're going to get to see a brand new sort of playstyle, brand new decks, brand new archetypes coming out of the new deluxe set. So I'd highly encourage, if you've, like, for a few folk, and, I was included, I think I didn't play a couple of the last leagues, but I'd recommend, if you've been thinking about getting back into it, Season 12's the season to get back into it. Are you guys going to sign up?
I'm already signed up, baby.
What clan?
Yeah,
or you got to keep that under wraps? Say like
I'm a bandwagoner, so I'm playing the clan that won Worlds.
Okay, good luck. Anyone else? Buzz?
I was thinking about going undefeated with Lion.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, just follow the mold that Shadowblade has created.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna play Dragon. Right.
Dragon, you filthmonger.
As
As soon as your clan gets a ban hammer, you're like, oh, I'm just going to play the most OP shit.
I'm outie. No
You
loyalty.
evil man. You know what, though? You won't enjoy it. You'll play like 2 games of it and you're like, fuck, this is so boring.
Man, I played a few games on Jigoku with it, and it was... I did lose one game, but like the other games, my brain was never... I think one of the great things about playing Dragon is you don't have to tax yourself, so you just kind of get through it. You've got endurance. So I was thinking about like maybe bringing... I mean, obviously the new cards might change everything up, but as it stands, I think they'd be great to play them during the longer tournaments, because especially in the early rounds, like you're not even thinking. You've just got these amazing cards, and you go, "Whoa, my deck can do this. This is amazing."
Yeah, I think the game plan is super static. It's not you don't have to be malleable to your opponent too often with Dragon, and that's what's so great about it. You just put on your protection, you attack their hand, you attack their provinces, and you just get the job done.
It was funny, as someone who up until this point has played very, very little Dragon, as in like I've not played as that clan. I played it, and one of the things that I'm like, oh wow, like this is their defining trait, is that a bunch of players like were just passing conflicts against me on the first turn. And I'm like, that's
how weird is that? Like, my
weird.
Provinces are so busted that they can't attack.
Yeah. I know, though, it's counterintuitive the way that when I was playing Scorpion against Dragon, my strategy in general was to flip as many provinces as you can as quickly as possible against Dragon, because you want to get it out of the way, get the pain out of the way, then you can start playing your normal game. And
it's like the best of 2 horrible options. That like you'd rather roll them over earlier when it's going to do less damage.
Yeah, but I know there are some people who kind of want to play the high roll plan. I roll a lot of 1s when I play D&D and stuff, so I'm just like, I'm not going to try and go to Vegas. I'm just going to hit all the provs and see what happens. Yeah. So there's that. We're winding down. We're almost at the dramatic climax of the World Cup. Have you guys been following on with the World Cup?
I heard Sweden's in the finals. Is that right?
That's pretty
what
exciting.
a great effort. That is fucking
Sweden.
amazing, man.
Yeah, I tell you, Lego Lego Strack is absolutely over the moon. He's very, very excited. He's been playing out of his skin lately. So I think I'm on Team Swede. I'm not sure.
Do we know who their opponent is yet, or is it not
I
resolved?
will just have a look. So it'll be the winner of Switzerland and Germany.
Wow, it's an all EU affair again. EU at the top.
I know. It's
How do those Yankees feel about this, man?
Oh, I mean, I don't think they're ever. Well, actually, they did better than us. God, like we can't talk. We didn't even make it to the play-in rounds.
I was playing a 45 card deck with mantras, so I'm gonna use that as my excuse as to why I didn't do well. I purposely played a suboptimal deck so that then I could have like an out when I got smashed.
Yeah. So Swedish, the Swedish train rocks on, according to Lego. So he's very excited. So Sweden versus Greece will be. I guess
so. Greece is still in it, and who's the other team?
No. I think Sweden knocked Greece outright.
Oh my god.
That's what I believe. I may be. They haven't quite updated the spreadsheet yet. I might be yelled at by Demagogue in a moment, but I do know that the Swedish train is rolling on.
How exciting!
Yeah. So we do have So when that final comes up, whatever you do, just make sure you watch it. And obviously, there'll be a VOD of it, so check that out when it comes on. It's been extremely exciting set of games. So hopefully that ends in some sort of dramatic fashion. I think they're trying to wrap it all up by the end of the year. We do have one other huge tournament going on, the Australian Discord League 5. Did you want to just quickly talk about that one, Bert?
Yeah, so we're in the final round. There are some familiar and some unfamiliar faces in the cut or in the prospective cut. So there'll be a cut to the top 8 after this. But yeah, it's going well. I think people are enjoying it. I think we lost a bit of steam because there were a lot of international events and holiday season, and I fucked up with pairings and stuff a bit. But I mean, our community down under is super awesome, and yeah, the games have been really good quality.
I might just talk, and again, I know you're always whining about Lion, but again, if we look at the top of the list, there's only one undefeated player at this point, which is the legendary Brendan Stovey, who's Strange Tamer 86 on Discord. He's 4 wins, completely undefeated, amazing. And then
yeah, that's a great effort,
huge effort. He's playing out of a new box, Hisu Moritoride as well, Keeper of Fire, because it is using the old rolls. Will the cut be using the old rolls or the new rolls?
I actually haven't determined that. I think, as a preference, I lean towards living in the future rather than the past.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a progressive when it comes to rules changes and shit, so I'd like to see everyone kind of do that. But yeah, I'll discuss it with the top 8, and we'll get a vote, maybe majority rules or whatever. So
I'm just going to quickly plug our Aussie players who are in the top 8. So second place, basically everyone who's on 3 wins or more. We do have Merlin Foyt, our own Merlin, the Mad Wizard. He's on 3 wins with, and he's playing Phoenix out of KI, Keeper of Water. We got Subversive, who I think he's pretty much always topped the tables in Oz Discord League. It's pretty much
a former champion. He won one of the leagues. I think it was 2 seasons ago.
What was it? The pink. What was it called? You gave him a trophy. The pink.
That's right. He's the pink champ, the hot pink champion.
Pink champion. Yeah. So City of the Open Hand, Seeker of Void. We've got David Leslie, who's playing Unicorn. Kong George on Discord there. He's in 4th place. We've got Cryptic Dragon, who I don't think
that's Kat from Adelaide. She came to the Kotai.
Yeah,
she's a
I met
dragon.
her. I played against her in the team. The
teams. That's right. And I played against Amy.
Yeah,
we have the privilege of having quite a few awesome women in our community in Australia. Like compared to I noticed at Worlds there are only a few girls, but we've got a sizable force, which is great.
Yeah, so Kat's in 5th place with Dragon, and then the only dragon the 2 dragons in top 8, and then rounding out the top 8 is we've got Daidoji Suni in 6th place playing Crane. We've got Monkeys and Pirates 7th place with Dragon. And then the original Salt Lord, Marwan himself. Marwan, who is a legend in L5R here in Australia, playing Phoenix KI. And I'm fairly certain that this is the 6 Maze of Illusion deck, if I'm not mistaken. He is that sort of guy.
I love Marwan. I'm a big fan of that style.
Yeah, it's just all about flipping coins. Now, Marwan's awesome and a great player. So I think that there's obviously one more round to go. So the likes of Edwin and Megan and Paddy could maybe, with their 2 wins, somehow parlay that into a top 8. But I think we're going to see.
And I'm sure we'll be casting some of those cup games.
Absolutely. I've already cast a couple of the regular rounds, and that was a lot of fun to do. But I think as we get to the top 8, we'll do some serious casting. Very exciting. Like, the tournament has taken a little bit longer than usual, but I think that we'll make sure with the top 8 that we'll bring those games to you regularly, and then it'll be some fun. I guess Discord League 6 will be with Children of Empire, won't it? But potentially
that will be awesome. I'm so keen on that massive set.
Yes, I think that will definitely be the case, and hopefully we'll get a resurgence in numbers. We still got a pretty decent turnout. I think we're like 25 players, but I think at peak we got 42 in the Aussie Discord League, which is like pretty good for our size country. But yeah, I hope we get a few more once the new cards come out, because I mean it's just going to shake everything up. It's so exciting.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm just looking on our list. I don't think there was anything else in particular we wanted to discuss, and we have gone way over time. Have we got any final exciting thoughts? Any plugs? Anything you want to?
Yeah, I got something I want to throw out into the world. I'd just like to say that the feeling is mutual, Anil. I hate when you're right as well, because it usually means that I'm wrong. So, yeah, I like that relationship we have.
Actually, one thing I want to shout out is the Imperial Advisor website. If you go to their imperialadvisor.com, they covered Madrid. So if you want to learn more about Madrid, go to their site. And they've got some articles about what went on there, and they've got some stats, and they always do a really fantastic job. So if you want some real analysis, check out imperialadvisor.com.
Man, I'm such a fan of those guys. Like, before I knew what the fuck was going on in this game, I was reading their meta-analysis articles. They're great custodians of the history of the game as well. You can go back and look at articles from all of the major tournaments throughout the first year of the game's life, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Glenn, you got anyone you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to promote?
Glenn is
fallen off.
Glenn is not here. Yeah.
He's not here, man. Right. Cool. Any West Australian stuff?
No, we've got near Christmas, got a little bit of a stratagem tournament up, which is, I think, the second last of only season 2 we're on at the moment, but it'll be good. Hopefully there will be another roller over here for that particular tournament.
Oh man, that'll be great.
I might be putting in an appearance. That might be fun.
You guys have to do a stream, and I'll do the commentary.
Yeah, I'm taking a tier 5 deck though. I'll take Scorpion. I'll just take dumpster tier deck.
none of this lion fucking jank.
I heard that I haven't participated in the Scorpion chat for a long time, but I heard it was just a bastion of salt, like a basically Salt Lake City.
Yeah, we were in Utah for sure. 100%.
What I love about the Scorp chat, the Scorpions are so funny. Like, throughout the whole year while they were on top, it was still a bastion of salt. And then I'm in the Lion chat and we're getting pummeled all left, right, and center, and they're all super positive. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Do you know what our we do like ourselves a little bit too much, I think. We actually recently changed the name of our chat, but for a long time we were Toshi Rambo because we dominated Toshi Rambo season. But you know what we're called now? Our chat has just been changed post RL to the Dojo. We've got the little accents on top of the dojo, so we're now just called the Dojo. Yeah. The chat was a great fun place to be post RL. There was definitely a lot of lively discussion. And we do see a lot of different folks contribute now. For a while, there was probably only a few folk. Yeah. But yeah, but it's great. Last thought I'll leave you with before you go is if you ever want to get a bit of a giggle and just enjoy a bit of the game that you may have missed, and I certainly missed it until somebody pointed out last week, go to the seals, Seal of the Lion, Seal of the Scorpion, etc., right? Read all of the seals, like the actual flavor text on it, and leave the crab one to last. Just do that, and I think you'll have a good time. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks so much for your time, and until next week, catch you around. I need like a catch.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.